Hey guys, it's Carla. Today we're going to paint these yellow and red peppers. I'm using white, yellow, cadmium orange, cadmium red, light green, green oxide, and black. Or, you know, if you don't have those exact colors, then just use something that's similar. All right, and I've coated my canvas in, this is an 8x10 canvas panel, and this is acrylic paint. I've coated my canvas in a mixture of black, brown, and a touch of white. But really any kind of dark background would work, so whatever you like. And I've already drawn on my outline. So I'm ready to get started. Okay, I'm going to start by lightening some of my background because like right through here between the peppers I can see some light. There's some light over here, so it's not all like really dark. So I'm going to take some white on my 1/2-inch hog bristle brush, and I don't want much on there, so I'm going to kind of scrape off what I can. And I'm just going to scrub this on right here beside my outline. If it gets too light, I'm not going to leave it this light, but if it gets too light on you, then you can always come back and darken it. And I want to leave it dark down here at the bottom because that's where the shadow is. So I'm going to very lightly scrub down there so that it doesn't get too dark or too bright. I want this to gradually get darker up here until it just fades off into the darkness. There's a little bit of light over here. And now with my angle brush, I'm going to pick up water on my brush and get some really thin black paint. Just, you can see how thin this is. It almost separates. And I'm just going to kind of glaze over this to tone down some of that white and give it kind of a gray color. Okay, now I've got that subtle glow that I want, and you know, normally you don't want to have to go back and change your background, but on something like this that's so it's got these hard edges that would be easy to work around if you had to. There's no little tiny parts to work around. So if you do end up having to go back and change your background, that's not a huge deal on this particular painting. But right now I'm going to go ahead and block in my peppers. And because this is on this really dark background, I'm going to paint them white first and then dry them and then put my color on, because if I just go straight in with my yellow or red or whatever, it's going to take many coats to cover. So I'm just going to block it all in white first. And it doesn't have to be great coverage on the white. You just want to get rid of that really dark background color. Okay, now I've got it blocked in and I dried it so that I can go ahead and start on my colors. So I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm going to paint this whole pepper yellow, even though, you know, a lot of it is orange and there's shadows and stuff. I just want to go ahead and get it all yellow first, and then I can come back with my orange after this is all covered. And I want to make sure that I come all the way to the edge and cover all of my white, because I don't want that white to, I don't want there to be like a white outline around the pepper. Alright, now I've got that blocked in, and I'm going to do the same thing with the red pepper. I'm just going to go ahead and block it in with just the cadmium red. Alright, now I've got the red pepper blocked in, and I'm going to go ahead and block in my stems, and I'm going to do that with my green oxide. Alright, now I'm still using my angle brush, and I've washed it, and now I'm going to start putting in my orange. So this will start, I'm just going to slowly start giving it a little bit of dimension. So we've got where these two sections come together, we've got like a dark area there. Comes all the way up here to the green. And then it blends out into the yellow. And this happens almost all the way around this stem. Okay, so we've got where these two sections come together, we've got another line here. And it fades off into the yellow. This is not going to be our final color, so don't worry so much about the color right now. We want to get all of our shapes in. Okay, now I'm going to start with my dark around this edge. So I want to try to look at my shapes as far as like the shape of this darker area, how far it comes in, and I want to just kind of feather it into the yellow. Again, we're not concerned about the right shade of orange at this point. We're just trying to get these shapes in. This top edge is catching more light, so it's not going to have as much of that orange, but I do see a little bit. And if you put too much orange in, you can always come back once it's dry and put in some more yellow. Okay, now I'm going to take a break from the yellow pepper and come over here to my red one. So I didn't even rinse my brush because it doesn't matter. That orange is going to disappear into the red. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of black. To make my shadow color. Gotta be careful with black. It'll eat up your other color real fast. Okay, so I'm going to start down here because it's really dark down here. And even though this will dry darker, we're still going to have to put in an even darker shade. But again, we want to go ahead and get our shapes in, the shapes of our shadows, our sections. And you don't have to exactly follow the reference photo, but it does give you an idea of what a pepper looks like and how it's, when the light hits it, how it's shaded. Okay, now I've rinsed my brush and I'm going to come back to my yellow. While that dries, I'm going to come back to my yellow one. And what I want to do now is mix up a light orange shade. And most of the pepper is this shade. Alright, now I've rinsed my brush, and while that dries, I'm going to come back to this one again. And what I want to do now is pick up some red and just a touch of white. I don't want it to be like really pink, but I want to lighten it a little bit so that it'll show up nicely on that red. And see, that didn't give me pink, but it gave me a lighter version of my cad red. So again, I just want to be shaping my pepper. All right, again, I've washed my brush, and I'm going to pick up some yellow and start highlighting this pepper very subtly. I don't want anything harsh at this point. And now for an even lighter highlight on the red, I'm going to add some more white to that. Try not to get bored with these layers. It's all part of the process, and just enjoy them. Just enjoy seeing what each one does to your painting. I don't like the shape of this back here. I mean, it's shaped the way the reference photo says, but I'm not a fan of it, so I'm going to change it. Yeah, I like that better. All right, now I'm going to start on my darker shades. So over here on the orange one, this down here has some red in it. So I'm going to take some of my orange and add red to it. going to come back with some of my light orange and use it as a kind of a transition color between my yellow and my reddish color. All right, now I'm going to use that dark red shade that I made and just right around the edges I'm going to really darken that. This seems really extreme when you're thinking about putting this color on this yellow pepper, but as I've said many times, don't be afraid of the dark. If you don't get those really dark areas in there, then the whole thing's going to look flat. Hopefully you can tell how much dimension this is giving it. It's really important to get that dark in there. Okay, now I think I've got all my dark in that one, but I need some more dark over here on this red one, so I'm going to add even more black to that shade. And I'm going to start down here at the bottom, just where I see the very darkest shades on my pepper. All right, now I've rinsed my brush, and I'm going to use a little bit of my cadmium orange over here on the red. Orange makes a good highlight color for red if you don't want to, if you don't want it to end up pink, then orange is a nice alternative. And what it does in this particular painting too is it kind of brings them together. It brings some of this orange over here, kind of unifies the painting. And feel free to embellish too, kind of make it, kind of exaggerate things maybe if you want more highlights or more color. You know, a lot of yellow and red peppers have some green in them sometimes. If they're maybe not quite ripe, you could put some green in there. But if you do, you want to do it very subtly. You wouldn't want to get carried away with it. Now before I put in my bright highlights on my peppers, I want to go ahead and work on the stems. So I've switched to my my round pointed brush, and I'm going to go ahead and put in, first I'm going to put in my dark green. So I'm going to bring some of this green oxide over and add some black to it. And right around the stem is really dark. And I want to make sure that this makes sense. So my stem is coming down through here, like this side of the stem is coming down this way. So I want to make sure that it continues with this dark green. And that shapes my stem right there. And then same thing on the other side. It's coming down this way, and I want to continue it on. Now there's some little streaks of dark throughout the stem. I'm just using the very tip of my brush. And then right here, the tip of the stem is shaded. Okay, and then down here, it's a little bit darker. Keep your brush strokes in mind. Make sure you keep them going in the direction that you see on the reference photo. And then all of this will make more sense when we put the lighter colors in. Okay, so same thing over here. I'm going to go ahead and get my dark in. This whole side right here is dark. And then there's streaks of dark running through it. And now I've rinsed my brush, and I'm going to use my light green. And just look for my lightest areas. Remember, these stems are very grainy. So using the tip of the brush, just keep that direction going of the stem and put in that grainy look. You don't have to get real precise with this, but just get some interesting things happening in there. And I'm using quite a bit of paint. I mean, it's pretty thick on my brush. I want it to go on thick so that it'll be bright enough against that dark green. Now I see a little bit of reflective light right here on the edge of this dark. Reflective light is where, like, this wouldn't be reflective light because this is where the light is directly hitting it. Reflective light is where the light is hitting something else and reflecting back onto this surface. So it usually just, reflective light usually just has like kind of a slither where the light bounces back up. Okay, now I'm gonna get some white and lighten that green a little bit. Again, it's all about layering. You just keep getting lighter and lighter or darker and darker. But each time you layer, you want to try to make sure you don't cover up all of what you just put on. So each time I might be getting lighter, but that last shade that I put on, I want to leave it showing in places. All right, now that these are dry, I like the shade of this one. This one, I want it to be a little brighter, so I'm going back to my angle brush with my Cad Red. And I just want to brush some of that in to kind of give it more of a, it's not going to shine yet because we don't have the highlights on, but I want to give it more of a, I don't know, just a little brighter or something, a little more colorful. Now I am going to use some light pink in a few little places because I do see some of that on there. You just, like I said, you got to be careful with red because you'll end up with a lot of pink if that's your only highlight color. Now I'm going to put one more coat of this light orange on here just to kind of smooth this out a little bit because it looks kind of choppy, and yours may not, so you may not need to do this. I don't want to really change the color of it because I like the color, but I just want it to be a little more smooth. Okay, I like that better. Now I'm going to add some yellow to my stems. I see a little bit of more of a yellowish green in there. So I'm going to use my little round brush and pick up just a little bit of yellow. And I have water on my brush, so it's kind of thin. So this is basically a glaze. And I like the color without the yellow too, but again, it's about unifying your painting. So we've got a lot of yellow here. We need to add it other places. And now it's time for the really bright highlights. So I'm going to use my angle brush, and first I'm going to pick up some water, a little paint, a little white, and I want this to be kind of watered down. So in some places, I'm just going to kind of glaze over this to very lightly highlight it. There's some really bright highlights too, but right now I want to get some of these more subtle ones in. I'm kind of really just going over some of that pink that I put in. That's where I'm seeing these subtle highlights. I'm also going to go ahead right here where it's going to be really bright. I'm going to go ahead and put this subtle glaze in, and then I can put my bright highlight on top of it. And this will allow me to have these soft edges. Even though this is going to be a bright highlight, this is a way to get the soft edges. And I'm going to let that dry before I put my bright highlights on, and I'm going to do the same thing over here with the yellow pepper. Keep in mind too that when this dries, it won't be as bright. So put it on a little brighter than you want it to end up. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the stems. I want to get some of that subtle white highlight in. I'm just using the tip of my angle brush for these small areas. Okay, and then I'm going to go right into my white without watering it down. And now I can start putting in these really bright spots. So I'm just using the tip of my brush and I'm tapping this on. And I don't want to go all the way out to the edge because I want to keep that soft edge. Okay, so I think we've got our peppers done, but now they're just kind of floating here. They need a shadow underneath. So I'm going to use this half-inch bristle brush, hog bristle brush. I'm going to get some black on it. And I want to go right up against the pepper with the edge of my brush so that I can keep that hard line on my pepper. But then with the side of my brush, I'm going to scrub it out to blend it into the background. All right, so now they're not floating anymore. But while I've got this black real dry on my brush, I'm gonna add a little bit to this bottom edge of this pepper because it needs to be a little more shaded. There shouldn't be, when you've got a shadow somewhere, there shouldn't be a big difference between the shadow itself and the object. Because if there is, it's just going to look like it's glued on there. All right, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. I like the way it turned out. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that, and check out my other videos. There's a lot of them out there, so take your pick. A lot to choose from, and I'm adding more all the time, so check those out, and until next time, happy painting. Bye, guys.